Hello, everybody. I'm Suzanne Hacker, your vacation rental business coach with Welcoming Wow. And as part of my Owners Club interview series, I am here with Gary Huhn. And Gary Huhn has a company called West Coast Travel. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey, his vacation rentals, and hopefully you can all learn some tips from Gary as well. So Gary, if you could introduce yourself, tell us about your company.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Susan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate this. So I have the West Coast Travel.com as my business name. I have I have a vacation rental that I own. I also co-host 2 additional vacation rentals, and I'm in the midst of taking potentially 2 to 3 more clients here soon and co-hosting their vacation rentals as well. So,
awesome.
On top of that, I stay busy with some consulting work where I help folks with their pricing optimization, with their SEO as far as creating their titles and descriptions for the various platforms, and just helping them set up their initial account when they get started. So, yeah.
Awesome. And your vacation rental is called the Berd Haus.
Correct.
It's spelled slightly different. So tell us about the Berd Haus.
So the Berd Haus, the name came from the street. The first 4 letters of the street name are BERD. That's why it's spelled a little different. But also the fact our backyard has a lot of native flora and whatnot, and we get a ton of hummingbirds that feed off the different flowers and whatnot in the backyard.
Awesome.
So it's just, and we have a little porch out there. We also have this nice fire pit with seating, custom seating built all around it. And you can literally just sit out there and watch the birds hang out and eat all the nectar and whatnot. So it's really,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love hummingbirds.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're beautiful birds.
But fun fact, are they really a bird?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I'm like, they're a bird? Are they an insect? They're so small. But anyway, yeah, I love hummingbirds and watching them. So that's beautiful that you have that there at your property. So your property is located where? Tell us.
The property that I own is located in Roseburg, Oregon. It's kind of southern central Oregon, about 3 hours south of Portland. It's a little city. Not a whole lot to do here, but there are quite a few hospitals. And I take that back. We have Highway 138 that runs through the Umpqua National Forest, and I believe there is 9 waterfalls within 45-minute drive. Just breathtaking waterfalls. And not only that, but multiple hot springs, multiple hiking and mountain biking trails. And then you can go even a little further, then you get into Diamond Lake, the Diamond Lake area, and all kinds of outdoor activities, basically.
Awesome. So all sorts of things like hiking and things like that. That's great. So what made you decide to get into this whole vacation rental business?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't really tend to get into the vacation rental business. I meant to get into the midterm rental business, which I did start out and was successful at that for a few months. But as the economy shifted, I decided to kind of expand my reach and potentially bring in vacation or people that are going on vacation. And I saw the opportunity just because, as I mentioned, there's so many outdoor activities here. I decided, hey, let's throw it up on Airbnb and Vrbo and see what happens. And I did, and I had success right off the bat. I put my place on Airbnb, and within 37 minutes, I had my first booking, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah.
It's just been kind of a roller coaster of bookings, and it's just continued and continued. Although, of course, December and January slowed down a bit, but still did pretty well during those months. So
nice. So you seem to be enjoying it. Obviously, you started to co-host then for somebody else. Yeah. So did that opportunity for co-hosting kind of fall in your lap, or were you out looking for it?
No, it fell in my lap. It was an old neighbor of mine who was going on quite a few business trips at the time over to Europe. And he and I started talking one day, and he asked if I would help him out, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. And I started making kind of different edits and optimizations to his listing, and it just improved his traffic, so to speak, and also his reservations. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I kind of showed him, and he just basically eventually just handed that one over to me, and he ended up buying a second property and handed that to me as well.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Good for you. Very cool. All right. So tell us how you chose the name West Coast Travel.
Well, I was born on the West Coast. I've lived on the West Coast my entire life, and so far all my clientele is on the West. So it just kind of it was an easy one for me to come up with. It wasn't that difficult at all.
I love it. On the play of West Coast, like there isn't another one out there like it. So that's good. That's awesome. Yeah. So you have a separate website for your vacation rental. So people can find it at www.thebirdhaus.com.
The Berd Haus, yeah.
But BERD.
BERDHAUS. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, awesome. So they can find your place there. And then you have just recently started to get more into the social media marketing for your place. So tell us why, and tell us a little bit about your strategy on that.
Yeah, well, I always knew that it was something I needed to get going. Local search, get optimized with local search as well as social media. And I just kept putting it off. And then when December hit and I noticed my reservations weren't coming in as quickly as they were in the past, I decided, hey, I need to jump on this. And so that's when I decided to really, open up the social channels with Instagram, Facebook, get into Google local search, and start pushing my kind of brand out there through the different social channels to get more views. And instead of relying on just Airbnb and Vrbo and Booking, I kind of felt like I needed to do my own marketing and push my own property out there and get it in the eyes and hands of other folks. So
So would you say you have a specific strategy now with your social media, or are you more like, oh, this looks good? And what have you sat down and done when you've done all your posts?
Yeah. So really, I'm just trying to focus on the local area. I'm not really trying to expand all the state of Oregon or the entire state or the entire West Coast. I'm really just trying to kind of network with local businesses in the area. I figure if I can get some local ties with local businesses, they can help push my word out, push my name out, or get and eventually, hopefully just kind of mingle with some of these business folks and kind of create clientele from that avenue. From that source. So that's really kind of my angle right now, is really just trying to network with local businesses and establish some connections that way. So that when someone comes to them and asks them, hey, do you know where we can stay? They now have my name and they know where they can find me. So
they think of you first, hopefully.
Exactly.
So
that's the hope.
Awesome. Can you tell us then, so like with your place, did you take your photos yourself or did you hire a professional photographer?
I hired a professional photographer. Little did I know at the time, he came highly recommended, but he was more of a real estate photographer, meaning he takes photos for houses that are going to be sold. So he didn't really come in and take photos of, certain aspects of my house, as far as really kind of honing in on certain areas of my house that I really wanted to. They're very kind of broad photos. So I'm actually in the midst of having a new photographer come in and take some updated photos. And we did that just recently with my other two properties that I co-host. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly really, but the reservations kind of started to take off again just with new photos. I'm constantly, I think that's one of the things we need to do at least once or twice a year, is just kind of update those photos.
That's a good point. New photos are great. I mean, plus there's different seasons usually too, which are great to be able to see, the home in different seasons, especially if you have any outdoor space, which you do at the Berd Haus. So that's great. Awesome. So when you started, I have a question for you. I don't kind of probably throwing you a curveball, but did you find the whole legal side, permitting, licensing, anything like that? Did you find that difficult, easy? Just, how was your local area there with it?
Yeah, my local area here is fine with it. I just basically got on the phone and started making some calls. And as I mentioned, I was kind of in the midterm basis, so rental business. So I didn't really have to worry about it at first, but before I switched over to the short term, I made some calls. In fact, I made a couple calls. I wanted to talk to a few different people and make sure that I was getting the correct answers. It wasn't difficult at all. I didn't find it to be hard at all. It was very, very easy. I got the information right away and moved ahead. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say has been like the most important thing that you've learned through this process?
Not to put all your eggs in one basket, that's for sure. As I mentioned with the midterm rental business that I was working with, I really relied on one recruiter that was helping me bring clientele. She unfortunately lost her job at that time, and I was like scrambling to get clients. So that's when I realized, okay, you can't just rely on one platform. You can't just rely on one source. You really have to get out there and put your property on multiple platforms and market it as well. And so
same as with investing, basically. Make sure you diversify and don't have
exactly.
things.
Absolutely.
So, Absolutely. It makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what if you could give yourself a piece of advice back to when you first started, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would have given yourself?
In terms of renting or in terms of purchasing or?
Either.
Okay.
Or both.
Yeah. As far as buying a piece of investment property, I got it's going to sound cliche, but I got caught up in the whole analysis paralysis thing. And I listened to a podcast on Bigger Pockets, and I can't remember one of the speakers, but he just says, put an offer in. Just put an offer in. There's so many ways you can get out of it. Even if your offer does get accepted and you really start shaking in your boots, you can still get out of it most of the time, 95% of the time. So I started doing that. And the more and more offers I put in, the more and more I got comfortable with the whole idea. But before that, I was so scared to even put an offer in because I was like, is it right? Is it right? Run the numbers 10,000 times. And I'm like, it says that from the numbers that everything will work out perfectly. Just do it. So, but yeah, the analysis paralysis thing, I think it gets everyone. And I just really need to because if I would have done it, I probably would have get started in this business about a year or two prior. But I just kept dragging my feet.
So it's like, just do it.
Just absolutely.
Just do it. Awesome. No, that's great advice. Yeah. That's awesome. So when you were talking before about, networking with the local community there, and basically, are you doing that more through social media? Are you doing it in person and then posting on social media? Tell me a little bit more about your networking with the local area there.
Yeah, doing both actually. Really trying to network obviously through social media, but also going to, especially right now, restaurants, breweries, wineries, where folks are going to eventually want to go to that are staying at my house. They're going to want to venture out, grab something to eat, grab a drink somewhere. So I'm really trying to establish relationships with those folks first. Yeah. I also want to, and here in the spring, I'll start, or my plan is to start networking with some of the outdoor fitters here, meaning like the people that are renting out the kayaks and the mountain bikes and that sort of thing. Since I mentioned there is a lot of outdoor activities in the area. And then also we have a large fishing and game and hunting outfitters here. So that's my next step, is to start networking with them. We've already had a few outfitters that have rented my house for their clients. So they take them out on a 3 or 4 day fishing trip. Meanwhile, they're staying at my house while they're going on this excursion. So those are kind of my big three right now, is to reach out and network with those. And even potentially, I would love to try and get to the point where I can provide, a discounted, free appetizer or something like that if they go to this restaurant. Like that's my goal, is to really kind of like get some deals for my clients. So,
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. What would you say would maybe be your next goal in your business?
My next goal, last year in 2021, I set a goal that I wanted to buy 3 properties in 5 years. So I bought my first one, and now I have 2. Want to purchase 2 more within the next 4 years. And those I would really like to either get near the ocean or in the mountains, up near the ski resorts. So that's my goal for now. As well, I would like to eventually, potentially, I haven't really set a goal yet, but I'm thinking about potentially trying to acquire more clients to co-host with, and see if I can maybe even get out of my 9 to 5 in the next 5-6 years.
Sure, yeah, it's an awesome thing to be able to do. Wonderful.
On paper though, and go for it. Yeah.
Might take a little longer, but that's okay. It's still good to have a goal. So is there anything that you haven't talked with us about today that you'd really like to share with anybody who's watching this?
I think there's a lot of kind of negativity right now around Airbnb as a bust and that sort of thing. And I think it really has nothing to do with the platforms itself. It's the economy. People just aren't traveling like they were. And that's okay. Maybe now is a time where you can educate yourself further about the whole process of investing or the whole process of putting your property on these various different platforms, and just learn as much as you can about the industry itself and about investing in. And then when the time is right, maybe next year or 2 years from now, when everything's kind of aligned a little bit more properly, maybe then you can go out and invest, and you'll have all that education in your background, and you'll be able to apply these concepts to your property and hopefully be successful. But I think education, you just can't get enough of it. I would just really, really, really absorb everything you can within the industry, from all different podcasts and books, and just speak with experts.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, awesome. So thank you so much for taking your time with us today. I really appreciate it. Obviously, I think our viewers will appreciate some of your advice today as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.